All right, y'all. This is Taylor Ursula of That's So Pisces, and it's time to talk about our Gemini new moon. So let's do it. This is a new moon taking place in Gemini at 16 degrees on Thursday, June the 6th at about 5:30 a.m. here on the West Coast. This is a new moon being ruled by Mercury, who is newly home in Gemini. All right, as of early Monday morning, the 3rd. So this is a new moon with its ruler at home, joining the gang of other planets hanging out in Gemini already. And just to recap, that is the Sun, Venus, now Mercury, also Jupiter. With this new moon, that'll be 5. So we'll have a big old party happening in the Gemini sector of your chart. This new moon is also taking place in the wake of some other conjunctions. So Tuesday, the 4th, will be our Venus Cazimi, where the Venus-Sun meetup of this sort of season this time will be bringing us some information about maybe what our values are currently evolving into, or perhaps where we are creating new pathways for exploration with some of our peers, some of our friends, loved ones. And earlier in the day, we have a meeting between Mercury and Jupiter in Gemini at 2 degrees. So this might bring some big ideas into what we hope to yield with this new moon here in Gemini. This might be an opportunity for Jupiter to kind of get a lay of the land here, knowing that it is technically in its sign of detriment here in Gemini. And being ruled by Mercury, Mercury can touch base with Jupiter and get a sense of what Jupiter might be beginning to explore here in this sign. Now remember, Jupiter will be here for about a year. We'll be here until June 2025. So we're still just getting those first glimpses of what's going to be maybe ramping up in this Gemini part of our chart, or what sort of things we'll be interested in exploring at this time. The moon enters Gemini on Wednesday, June the 5th, and makes a quick trine to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 1 degree. So we have had, again, the planets entering into Gemini, making this trine to Pluto, where we previously had squares from Taurus. So as the planets move through Taurus, they made squares to Pluto. We're now making nice through these trines. We're now getting an understanding of what Pluto is bringing to the surface for us as it enters those first weeks of retrograde. Gemini, hosting all of these planets and being Mercury's recent landing place, means that Mercury is now moving through that trine as well, and that happened days before this first quarter moon. Since Mercury recently returned home to Gemini, this means that this is a new moon being ruled by Mercury, who's also coming out of that trine to Pluto. And with Mercury coming out of that trine, we should remember too that Jupiter made that trine to Pluto the weekend before. All right, so between that third quarter moon and leading up to this new moon, Jupiter over that weekend just made this trine to Pluto as well. So this conjunction between Mercury and Jupiter may also be an unpacking of what they have been deepening understanding around in those trines to Pluto. Mercury being our immediate day-to-day sense of understanding and how we implement things into our habitual lives. Jupiter representing the larger philosophies that we're living by. This sort of integration of these small picture, big picture ideas on the other side of these Pluto trines may have us getting a deeper sense of what questions we have, as well as what themes about power or transformation or resources or material value lie beneath those questions. Okay, the moon goes on to make a conjunction to Jupiter at 2 degrees. So again, this is following the conversation that Mercury has had with Jupiter in this conjunction the day before. The moon helping us emotionally integrate what we're understanding, what's being integrated in that larger conversation, and allowing us to start connecting with others about those ideas. And the moon then makes a conjunction to its ruler Mercury at 4 degrees. So, again, getting that bigger picture stuff integrated, then moving into that smaller picture day-to-day stuff. We are just like unpacking everything and figuring out where we want to start putting things away. Knowing that those places might change. We might move those things, we might reorganize or recategorize, especially with a Virgo first quarter moon coming next week. On Thursday the 6th, we have the moon make a sextile to the North Node in Aries at 13 degrees. And this is following the conversation that the Sun had with the North Node on Monday, the same day that Mercury moved into Gemini. So there may be some reinforcement of what it is we are feeling ourselves moving toward at this time. The moon is new at 16 degrees and shortly after makes a conjunction to Venus, also at 16 degrees. So this is where we are emotionally integrating whatever we see coming up in that Venus cazimi that we just talked about that took place on Tuesday before this moon. So that conjunction, again, brought us some clarity, perhaps about our relationships, our resources, our finances, and our values, and the moon bringing in that Venusian energy just as it's meeting the sun certainly infuses some of those themes about values, resources, relationships, finances into whatever this new moon looks like for us. Maybe that means that we are creating opportunities to connect with others around our new moon goals. Maybe that means we are hoping to infuse our new moon goals and intentions with some extra resources. The moon squares Saturn in Pisces at 18 degrees and perhaps puts a damper on what it is we're trying to put into motion or that we are hoping for or intending here. Saturn, of course, being that representation of our limitations, our responsibilities, a sense of weight that we're carrying now. It might be that there are lofty ideas in Gemini, especially with those conjunctions to Jupiter. And it might be that Saturn is showing us right now where we only have so much room to move ahead, or perhaps where we will need more time, right? Gemini is not necessarily patient, okay? Gemini wants to move quickly and get things done. We may want to see results, and Saturn may have us kind of slowing our roll. I'll also say that over this lunation phase, in general, this new moon, our Virgo first quarter moon, our Capricorn full moon, which will be the first of two, as well as our Aries third quarter moon, we'll be talking a lot about Saturn stationing retrograde. So this is also a Saturn moving very slowly. Again, that idea of patience, that idea of things taking time. Saturn is moving slowly now to remind us that all of the things we're working toward will take time. And these planets in Gemini, especially the moon moving the fastest of all of them, is maybe going to feel a sense of impatience, maybe a sense of discouragement, maybe a sense of flippancy about how dare you, right? And we might need to sit with that. And indeed, the moon goes on to make a sextile to Chiron in Aries at 22 degrees. So we will certainly feel some things coming up. Mercury may be addressing some of those Aries wounds, again, about initiating. If we've got ideas in Gemini, if we are excited, if we have options we are looking forward to trying out and testing and kind of getting curious about, then Saturn might be slowing our roll, as I said before, and maybe kind of putting a damper, Pisces pun there, putting a damper on some of those ideas and options. And that sextile to Chiron may have us remembering, yes, this is reminding me about how I tried to do that one thing that one time, and I also had to slow down, or I also had to be patient. And it might not necessarily resolve anything, but it will certainly bring us some sense of understanding about perhaps what's feeling sticky, what's feeling uncomfortable, what's making us feel discouraged, right? Some of those stories, maybe those origin or early stories that connect to what's coming up for us now. On Friday the 7th, we see the moon in Gemini making a sextile to Mars, wrapping up its time in Aries at 28 degrees, okay? And so this may see us tapping into that resolve, tapping into that drive to initiate anyway, right? We've had Mars meet Chiron by now. We've had confrontations with and percolations around where we've been held back, where we've struggled to initiate or to open up new possibilities, and Mars has figured out how to move on, right? We've made some way forward from there. So the moon here making this sextile sees us tapping into our agency, perhaps, sees us connecting with, again, a sense of drive, maybe even being influenced by, or maybe collaborating with whatever our relationship to ego is at this time. And the moon then squares Neptune at 29 degrees. So much Neptune everywhere, all season. So maybe this has us a little bit dizzy about what we believe in right now. Maybe this has us pulling out all of the possibilities, both fact-based, data-based, and intuitively informed, creatively informed. We might have a kind of push or pull between our logic and our kind of like creative visionary functions, right? We might be a little bit dizzy around this time. Neptune's certainly going to be casting a lot of fog on the planets this season, so this will be one of many interactions and experiences with this energy. A couple other noteworthy transits. On Saturday, we have Venus come in and make that same square to Saturn that the moon did at the new moon. So we might, right, have those feelings of limitation then showing up in our relationships. Maybe we're seeing some of our financial faculties being stifled or put on pause. Maybe we'll need more resources than we currently have in order to make some of those Gemini options make sense for us to explore at this time. Maybe we need to figure out who we're able to connect with, and maybe our options are limited. Maybe some of our connections are strained at this time based on what we are hoping or choosing to explore now. And maybe we feel a bit isolated in this process. Venus is watching Saturn hang out in a sign that Venus would rather be in. Saturn doesn't necessarily want to be in either of these signs, and therefore there's no real gain or loss there for Saturn. But Venus does feel that there's perhaps a sense of connection that she's missing, perhaps a sense of possibility that she's not able to tap into right now, and that might contribute to some of those feelings of isolation or being othered, maybe feeling lonely. On Saturday, we also have Mars moving into Taurus for the next several weeks. This is Mars being ruled by Venus. Venus, earlier this day, is squaring Saturn. Mars and Taurus might start off as a particularly strange experience, especially since Mars is in its detriment here. We might feel like we're going to slow down and maybe tune into some embodiment at this time as we lick our wounds and maybe get a sense of who we can connect with or what can allow us to ease our sense of isolation or loneliness now. We may separate from others in order to go move into that embodiment. Mars in Taurus does move more slowly. So Mars is still at the end of Aries at this new moon. This new moon sextiles Mars at the end of this Gemini journey. There is maybe a sense of, I'm going to ramp up my efforts and push forward. With Mars now moving into Taurus, we may recognize some of where we need to slow down and be patient, like Saturn said, even though it's frustrating, even though we're butting up against that energy. Mars moving into Taurus certainly does kind of push further the narrative of going slow, of pacing ourselves, of being grounded at this time. On Sunday, we see the sun move into that same square with Saturn at 19 degrees. So it's kind of all over the place here. All right, so this is where we might then start to feel real discouragement about what we're able to become at this time, right? The sun being the thing that moves a degree a day, that shows us who we are becoming day by day, literally. So we might start to feel like, oh, where I'm trying to go is no longer an option to me. What I'm trying to do, I'm not going to have this energy or this curiosity if it's going to take me this long to get through this thing. On the same day, we have Mercury and Gemini making a sextile to the North Node in Aries. So perhaps we are able to get creative mentally. Maybe we're able to make lists. We might be able to figure out how this is helping us pursue this soul's journey now. Again, Mars is in Taurus, calling us to slow down. Mars is ruling the North Node. Mars can no longer see the North Node from here, so there may, again, be that sense of, well, how am I ever going to get to where I'm trying to go if this isn't helping me get there? And again, Mercury kind of allowing us or inviting us to be flexible, to be inventive, to be curious about what is this doing for me right now? Where is this that may be helping me more than I feel like I can tap into at this time? Okay, let's start this new lunation cycle. We're starting a whole new pull. So we will grab our cards and we'll take a look at what themes are being opened up at this Gemini new moon. So stay tuned. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. All right, if you want to pull along, head on over to priestessbaby.com/store and download the free PDF. All right, so at this new moon, we are looking at a cycle that begins for us now, as well as what has been cleared away to allow for this shift. We're looking at what this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. We're looking at how we can ground our ideas and intentions now. We will look at the bottom of the deck to see what stories lie beneath everything that we are seeing come up for us today. And if you like this deck, you can get that on my shop site as well. Okay. All right. Who do we have here? The sun reversed. Okay. All right. We started our Taurus new moon cycle with a reversed high priestess. So, interesting to see some new major arcana themes showing up, also reversed. No one else is reversed here though, so it'll be interesting. So let's think about this. We love to see the sun typically, and the sun is not worsened by being reversed. It's one of those few cards that doesn't necessarily take on a negative connotation when it's reversed. When it's upright, we see ourselves coming out of a fog, that fog being the moon. The moon shrouds all and calls us deep into our unseen places, deep into our subconscious space and what lies within there. What's going on in the background that we haven't paid attention to, and how are those things maybe instilling fear in us, right? Where are we afraid of ourselves is a question we can ask ourselves in the moon. And when we see the sun, we have emerged from that journey through fog. Here you see the fog being burned away by the sun as it illuminates. And you can see here that I put some butterflies in this image as a symbol of the transformation that we go through as we emerge as the sun, because we've seen ourselves, because we have integrated ourselves, and we are once again whole, and we shine brighter than we ever have. Okay, so reversed, maybe we are, you've heard me use this word with reverse cards, resistant. Okay, maybe we're encountering some resistance to emerging from this foggy place. Maybe we are experiencing kind of an inner awakening, right? Maybe this is not happening so much visibly outside of us. Perhaps we're kind of experiencing this on a very internal level. Maybe we have questions about who this integrated self is. Maybe we aren't so sure about how well we've been able to integrate some of these shadow elements of ourselves. Maybe we're having trouble burning off some of this fog. So again, there's nothing necessarily like bad happening when the sun is reversed. We may just not be feeling it yet. Okay, maybe we're not feeling it yet. Maybe it's a slow burn. Maybe we are easing into some of this. And Gemini season has been a lot, okay? It is the last season of spring for sure, but with Jupiter entering the fray at the same time as the inner planets, it may have kind of had us feeling like we needed to feel ourselves a little more than we're ready to. Maybe we there's a sense of pressure of like, I gotta be out here, I gotta be crushing it. And it's like, maybe we just need to take our time. Okay. And we certainly talk about taking our time in the transit portion of this video. So this might be some of that, right? We might be like really feeling what we're moving into, but Saturn is sort of looming and taunting us and putting us, kind of holding us back a little bit. And that might be what we see here in the sun reversed. Let's see what else is here. A cycle that begins for us now. Well, that's cute. Okay, we like that. So home is on the agenda in some way. If that's, I don't imagine that literally all of you are moving. That would be wild. So maybe there is some topic of home that comes up in this new moon, depending on where this is in your, where's Gemini in your chart. So maybe some of you are thinking about moving. Maybe some of you are recommitting to an idea of home. Maybe some of you are getting married. It is spring after all. It's about to be summer. It's beautiful outside. Except for all of those mutant spiders that are hanging out in New York. So maybe we are maybe there's a celebration at hand. Jupiter is here with all these planets. Jupiter loves a party, okay? Some sort of cycle around our heart and what holds our hearts, around what is home for us and where do we find home and what does home symbolize to us and how do we honor and celebrate that. Okay, if we're moving, then maybe we're just opening up this new cycle of what home is going to look like and getting a sense of where do I want home to be, or what am I able to kind of celebrate as I begin to prepare for this new chapter. Okay, all right. What has been cleared away to allow for this shift? Some sort of mental mastery. Feels very appropriate for this air card to bring us into an air new moon. All right, so we've been able to demonstrate some sort of mastering of information. We've been able to demonstrate and maybe model to other people or communicate outwardly as the king, here is the agenda, here is the truth, here is the plan. Might be a little more wandsy. So this might be here's the data, okay? Let's answer these questions. Here are the answers to the questions. I'm now able to categorize and catalog that. And now that we've collected those answers, we are able to think about what does home need to be. Maybe this is wrapping up a cycle of some sort, right? If this is what's being cleared away to allow for this new home cycle, maybe we needed to have some big conversations. Maybe we needed to wrap our mind around what we need home to look like, or what this commitment looks like, and outlining that for ourselves and collecting the information so that we can then celebrate the thing. This is maybe a prenup or some sort of other contract. Maybe you have outlined some sort of again, plan feels wandsy. Expectations could be a very sore. So we've outlined the expectations. All right, we've gotten clear. You've put something on the table. I've put something on the table. We've compromised. Maybe we've mastered this communication skill. Amazing. We've outlined the expectations. Now we can have the party. Now we can celebrate. Okay. Cute, cute. What this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. Oh, more swords. Okay, how fascinating. We've mastered something, and now we are maybe like opening up to a new, deeper cycle of this same thing. Or maybe we've like mastered this, and now we're getting new ideas about what comes next. Okay, so maybe we outlined, again, the contract, or we had the conversation. We demonstrated a lot of like intellectual maturity about speaking our needs and outlining what we want this to look like. And as this begins to take shape, I don't know why I said that like that, begins to take shape, we are opening ourselves up to just like new ideas, new truths within us beyond this truth, right? Which makes a lot of sense. When we master a certain element of communicating something or thinking about something, it makes sense that we then open ourselves up to new ideas or new ways of thinking or new frameworks we're ready to transcend, all right? This is not the knight, okay? This isn't the knight who's like, I'm going there, I'm breaking out, I'm gonna break out of this old framework and go find the new one. This is just like, I'm thinking about things differently. That's landing differently than it used to. I'm curious about what that might open up into. We don't need to leave necessarily yet, right? This is more just the percolating curiosity starting to emerge, okay? And that's what this cycle starts to look like as it unfolds. How we can ground our ideas and intentions now. Cute, cute. Okay, I love this. So there are a lot of court cards. This certainly does feel like there's lots of conversations happening with other people. Again, the king might be those actual conversations, and these might be kind of awakenings within you. Page isn't necessarily taking action yet. Again, that's the knight. It's just being initiated. It's kind of just being opened up to the possibilities. So how to ground your ideas and intentions. Pay attention to your intuition. Be open to intuitive downloads, right? I like also thinking about the traditional Rider-Waite image of the person holding a cup and there's a fish jumping out, right? Certainly something that you can see kind of replicated here regarding that movement. Hummingbirds flitter and skim across the surface of the water. They flit between waterfalls, kind of dancing amongst like air and water, kind of blending those worlds. And that certainly is something that we see with the Page of Cups. It is a cup, it is an emotional card, it is intuitive. It is not a sword, it is not like factual, right? But their, intuition is our emotion influenced and informed by information and our environment. So you can see that sort of blending of air and water there. So it's about opening ourselves up to what our maybe instincts and intuition are trying to communicate to us. We are in a strength year, of course. So perhaps we are, if the Taurus new moon opened up with the High Priestess reversed and we needed to spend that lunation cycle attuning to our intuition as a larger presence within us, major arcana style, then it makes sense that on a smaller level this season, we are now starting to kind of notice what these little flits and skips look like within us. What are they awakening within us? What are they being informed by in the environment around us? And what are they starting to show us? Again, just opening up to them, not needing to act on them like the knight, but just showing up here. And I think that the page status supports some of the sun that we see here because we're not acting on it just yet. We've wrapped up a big conversation. We've wrapped up a big gesture of mastery again. And now we are kind of getting a sense of, as I start to emerge and I think about what home looks like and whatever this situation is for me currently, and as I think about this, it helps me get a sense of what it is to emerge from this fog, of what it is to step into my full shine, and what it looks like to integrate. It makes sense that the self would be connected to the story of home, and we may not have a full sense of what we are integrating into or what we're shining as right now if we are not necessarily tethered to a permanent space or whatever this looks like for you. And let me know what that looks like for you in the comments. I would love to hear about what's coming up for you as we navigate this new moon spread. So let me know in the comments what lands for you and what this is bringing up. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like this video. Please share with someone who may be focusing on what home looks like and having some big conversations and opening up to some new possibilities. And subscribe so that we can continue to trace what this lunation cycle will be opening up for us. All right. See you next time.